Welcome to another edition of MIW. Got the D-Man here, and I'm glad you could join me. Today's topic is fitness and health. On my last video, I talked about weight, the weight problem in the U.S., the weight problem that we have personally sometimes. A lot of that has to do with the food that we eat. Are we eating healthy? I mean, it's very difficult to eat healthy in the U.S. I buy organic. I don't do it all the time, but if I buy $10 worth of regular food, if I want to buy that same thing in organic where I live here, it's going to cost me $15 or $20. So it's actually more expensive to eat healthy than it is to eat the junk. Most people live on fast food. Nothing wrong with fast food once in a while, but the vitamin value in fast food, because it's all processed, frozen, been through a lot of different, a lot of different processes before it ever gets to your mouth. Okay, so I don't know if they have a way of measuring the vitamin content value. I don't think so, but I would have to think it was very low. Okay, and of course it's not organic food that you're eating anyway, and then once it goes through the processing, so it's really hard to find good food. For example, the normal vegetables in the grocery markets, they look beautiful, but there's not much taste there. So once again, I doubt if there's much value in there. They use insecticides, chemicals to make it grow, fertilizers, and all these things. Okay, but don't get discouraged. I saw one study where they said it was just about as valuable to think you're eating something good than it was to actually eat something good. I'm not sure about that, but they said what you thought about the food you were eating had as much to do with actually what it was. Okay, you can get calories. They tell you the content, the calorie content, but you can eat sugar and get your caloric content, daily caloric amount in every day. So, but there's no inherent vitamins in sugar, at least not that I'm aware of. Okay, so the calories are not near as important, or what kind of calories you're taking in. I mean, I'm in shape. I'm 60 years old. I mean, compared to most people around in the U.S., I'm in tip-top shape. I'm talking about guys in their 20s. The only people that might be in better shape than I am are the professional athletes. No, actually, they probably are. But I could even get in the ring with them today and go a round or two. They may work me over pretty good, but I could go with them. The last guy I worked out with, he was like 12-0 as a professional boxer, 165 pounds. I worked out like 3 rounds with him. It was rough. He worked me over pretty good. He says, "Man, you're a tough SOB." I'm thinking, yeah, but I took too many punches. But the point is, I was in good enough shape that I could stay in there with him and go the 2 or 3 rounds. I don't remember what it was. So that's what's important. My boxing skills are really rusty. I'd have to get back in there and get sharpened up. I don't really want to take the beatings that it takes to get sharp again. It's kind of difficult getting back in there, but I love fighting. I love being in shape. I've been in shape all my life since I was about 20. And before I turned 20, I did a lot of drinking and drugs and didn't do much working out. I never got overweight then, but I started boxing when I was 20 years old. But I always said that when I was competing, I boxed amateur, professional, triathletes, did marathons, shorter road races. Those are the things I competed in. And I said when I'm done competing, I'm just going to start lifting to get in shape. And that's what I've done for the last 7 or 8 years. I just lift weights. Now, I don't lift weights to get big. I lift weights to look good, because I like to look good. When I look in the mirror, I look great. I want to feel like if I take my clothes off in front of any woman that I feel good about how I look. And I do. I look good. I like it. You can look good too if you don't now. All you have to do is just do a little bit every day. Don't start out all at once. Many people go to the gym and they lift this weights for an hour and they're sore the next day. Just do a little bit. I've been working out for years, and if I start a different exercise, I have to start out slow. It's too easy to start with this new exercise and just really hit it hard, and then you're sore as hell and you don't want to work out again, or you hurt yourself. So start out slow. For example, get up tomorrow, do a few push-ups. Can you do 1 push-up? Hey, when I first started running when I was 20 years old for boxing, I could only run 1 telephone pole length. And I went back home, sit on the couch, and I felt like I was going to pass out. That's how out of shape I was. You know what? The next day, I run one more telephone pole length. Long story short, eventually I could run 31 miles. So there you go. If you can't do a whole push-up, do a half one or do it on your knees until you can do a whole one. All right? And when you do that one, then you can start doing one on your knees, and then, or no, do two on your knees or three on your knees, and then try doing two without doing them on your knees. Then you can do that. Just take your time, be patient with yourself. You haven't gotten this out of shape overnight, and you're not going to get in the excellent shape you want to be in overnight. And another most important thing is see yourself as you want to be. In your mind, feel how that's going to feel. Get a photo of somebody you want to look like. Now, it doesn't have to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, although I do have a photo of him on my wall, along with a couple other guys. And I've even got a photo of myself on the wall. I'll put something in the video so you can see what I look like. But if you're going to admire those guys, admire yourself. Put your head on a body that you want. Now, this may seem ridiculous, but if you look at this over and over again, over a period of time, this makes an impression on your subconscious mind. And the action that results from that will bring you toward that goal. Now, you have to take action, and you will have inspired, intuitive action. You must act on that. Even if it's something like, say you're sitting in your house and you're eating Cheetos and you're watching TV, and you think, man, I should stop this and go out and take a walk. Get your butt up, go take the walk. Don't start thinking, well, yeah, but it's kind of cold, and Bob's coming over in 20 minutes, and I don't know if I'll be back before. Go walk for 5 minutes. Go walk for 10 minutes. You have to act on those intuitive nudges, okay? Because they will push you in the direction of your goals. Faith without works is dead. What that means to me is if you really believe you can get there, your works, which is your actions, another word for action, you will take the action to get there. Your faith or your belief is showed or demonstrated by the action you take to get there. I have failed so many times in my life, okay? I've fallen down, I've had broken arms. I broke my shoulder here 2 or 3 years ago riding my son's scooter, all right? The last thing he said to me when I started off down that hill was, Dad, don't get going too fast. I didn't know it had brakes. So I was going a little fast, and I thought, you know what? I better get off of here. So I thought, well, I'll just jump off and roll in the grass. Well, I was going faster than I thought, so I jumped off and I rolled. When I went down, I heard my shoulder crack. Okay, so I'm like, oh, Jesus, it hurt like hell. So I'm laying there, and I try to get up. And the pain is so bad, I'm like dizzy, okay? My daughter's there. She's worried, but Dad, let me call somebody. No, I can make it. You know how the men are. So I finally get to the car, but I had to stop 3 times. It was so, I don't know how to explain it. The pain was so bad, I was about to pass out. But I got over it. That's been 3, maybe 4, about 3.5 years. I still have problems with my shoulder lifting. Like right now, I can't bench very much because I was lifting here about 6 months ago and I was maxing out. I hurt it again, okay? Now, a lot of people, what they'll do, oh, I can't work out because of my shoulder. Well, you know what? I can do my legs, I can do curls, I can do other things. So if you have an injury, do what you can do with what you have and try to build up that injury. Start out slow. I mean, it's discouraging when you're benching pretty good and all of a sudden something happens and you go down below half of what you were benching before. But I'm building it back up again. It's still I still have some pain there. Sometimes it aches pretty bad. But do you think that those professional athletes that you admire, surely you have one that you admire anyway, if you knew the story of what it took for them to get there, you may not be so anxious to be like them. Because all we see is the success, the glory days. You don't see the times when the guy was crying because he had an injury and he couldn't, he's crying by himself in his room. He's so disappointed because there was a tournament coming up and he got hurt and he wasn't going to compete in. He's been training for it for 6 months or a year. You don't see those disappointments, those discouragements, but he overcame those. He continued to press on even when it didn't look like he was ever going to get to where he was going to go. I was training for the Golden Gloves. This guy hit me. I'd broken my rib about 2 weeks before working out with a heavyweight. I didn't know it though. I got a sharp pain like a knife, but I finished the round. This guy a smaller guy nailed me, and it dropped me down to the floor. I couldn't breathe, man. It's like, oh shit, I was so discouraged. Anyway, so I couldn't fight in the tournament. I had to sleep setting up for a week. It was another month before I could walk or run good. And it was another 6 months before I could get back in the ring. And I was getting pretty sharp too. So, I mean, it was a big discouragement. I'd broken my leg while running races and had to be on crutches for 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, so when you look at me and you see I'm in shape, it's been a long road. Now, the joy was in the journey because I've had a lot of good times training. I used to think that the goal was the end, but when I won my first pro fight, it was empty because I worked so hard and I focused so much on that being the thing, but that is not the thing. In reverse of that, or in contrast to that, I was training to race a mile here just a few years back. I went out on a Saturday night to run, and I got young boys, and 3 or 4 of the boys just started running with me. We ran about 3 miles, and they were all high school athletes, and I thought, they're going to smoke me probably there at the end. Well, one of them quit at 2 or 3 miles, and the other one at the end, he quit too, so I ended up finishing ahead of all of them. Now, we weren't racing, but we were running a good pace because we were having a good time. And these boys were like 16, 17 and competing in high schools, football players, wrestlers, and they all pooped out. And, I finished, like I said, we weren't racing, but, I felt good about that. But not just that I came in first out of all of us, because as I said, it wasn't a race, but it was so much fun running with those guys. It was just a spur of the moment. And that's when I realized the joy is in the journey. The joy is in the journey. If you think when you win your competition, whether it's Xbox, a race, a fight, a wrestling match, or whatever it may be, that's going to be it. No, that's not it. It's the journey. It's the journey getting there. They call that the grind sometimes. But if it's a grind, you're not doing something right. You're going to end up feeling empty at the end when you think you're supposed to feel wonderful. Now, when I won my first pro fight, I felt like a big man. They gave us extra money because it was the best fight of the night. It was in a big hotel down in St. Louis, and I had all these people pat me on my back, and the Spinks brothers were there. They were former champions. And Donald Curry, I think, had a gym in Texas. He talked to my coach and I afterwards. He wanted me to come down there and fight for him. So it was great. Everything went wonderful. But, I left later on, went home, and it just was empty. I don't know how to explain it. I did fight again after that, but it was just empty because I focused too much on the goal. You're living today. You got today. Enjoy today. You may never reach that day. Probably you will if you got a good vision, but enjoy the journey. The people you meet, the relationships you make, the experiences you have. And that's the greatest thing in life, really. It really is. Because when you're on your deathbed, I don't care how much money you have, how much land you have, how many girls you've slept with. You're not going to be thinking about that. Well, you might. Some of the beautiful ones, that you had a good relationship with. But probably not the one-night standers. You're not going to be thinking about them. But the relationships, the people you've met, the time you've given to other people for free, that's what you're going to be thinking about. I mean, I've lived my life fully, and I'm going to be here a lot longer. That's the plan. One never knows, of course, but I believe I will be. Got kids to raise still. But enjoy your life today. Thanks for joining me. And if you'd like to get my help personally, you can contact me at marksinspirationalguidance@gmail.com. Smash that like button, subscribe, and share this with a friend. Be cool.